Hey guys, Ben here again with the Action Academy podcast. We have a special guest on with us today. He's very special to me, very special to us as a community, in our company. I just want to introduce him today.
Yeah, I'm John Jordan, here to talk with Ben about the Action Army, Action Academy, and Action Plumbing. It's a lot of the stuff that we've done and built over the years.
Yeah, no, today it's kind of one of those days. Johnny's been with me. Obviously he's my brother, but he's been with me for the last, I'd say, probably 8 to 10 years. We've been working all together, and it's really been a ride. We talk a lot about how, like last time we talked about Austin, we talked about his story, and we're going to get into your story a little bit here today. But for me, when I started and being a young entrepreneur, and especially in plumbing, it really was one of those things where it was like, didn't really know where we wanted to go or how we were going to do things. And when we first started, Johnny, he was on his mission, and, he came back home after 2 years and, jumped right into things, started helping us out, doing a lot of things. And it was fun, and we had a great time. But like the craziest thing about it was when you got home and it turned from, like, hey, before your mission, you were a kid, you were young and you want to do all these things. And then when you got home, it was just like, man, you were laser focused. Kind of walk me through a little bit about, before the mission, and then, how the mission affected who you are today, and, like the processes that you come up with.
Well, so basic, just like from the very beginning, the kind of on the come up on my story is when 16 coming up, when I was just young, and like Ben said, not as focused on it, but in all of our spare time when we weren't scrapping appliances or we weren't working for free like slaves, we were, they would put us in the back and we would fix appliances and stuff. And, Ben was kind of instrumental in me learning that stuff and getting my first start in sales and that was doing appliance sales. And then, from that, as a kid to right before my mission, I was working doing that. Ben was actually managing the company there for us as I was getting ready for my mission. And that was, we were committed, but really I knew I was going, to be gone for a couple years. So when I got back, and it was, okay, well, now what are we doing with the rest of my life now? And came back, you guys had obviously started the company. And from the very beginning, like that was, we played hard, but we worked hard. It was like hard work. There was a lot of days where, unbalanced was probably the best way to describe us. Like it was, crazy, where we would work all night, and then the next day we would roll back into it and we'd start going again on these projects. And some of the customers we dealt with were awesome. Some of our best customers were from those early days.
I tell everybody all the time, like, I don't know if it was God or if it was just by circumstance, but we got the best customers back in those days. Because if we didn't have the best customers, we wouldn't be here today.
That was a ragtag. That was a motley crew. That was a group of guys, and we were committed to just trying our best and figuring it out. Like that was the fun thing about us back when we started, is we had an idea of what we wanted, and we knew what our faults were, but we were just so committed to getting better and to growing that we would try in any way, any chance to get better at anything. And we were always trying to work on our policies and procedures, our basic, just from getting guys onboarded to getting guys into trucks, into jobs, into positions. And it was one of those things where, that was a fun time. It was, we were laser focused, because it was one of those things where at any moment we were running a small company, and there was a lot on stake, because we were the front lines, and we were the employees, and we were the boss, and we were the guys that were going out there and making the first impressions, and also trying to keep the customers long term. Like that was a fun time.
We had such, we didn't have any structure, right? But we were structured enough to know like what we were good at, what we weren't good at, and that was what was really, really instrumental in my progression, right? Was, I started out, doing all of the excavation, all of the installs of the plumbing. You and Daniel, you guys really focused on like, hey, getting out there and selling it. And like that right there, I tell people all the time, like, it was crazy because I had to learn how to excavate. I had to learn how to install. I had to learn how to, plumbing ran behind walls, but I never really had to learn like what customers' needs were, right? Setting those expectations with a customer. And I understood it, right? Because, we grew up doing in sales and I understood how customers function, but the whole painstaking process was, for me was a little more on the installation side. And for you guys, it was a lot more on the sell side, but you guys had the worst because when I'd get overloaded, then you guys had to come back and really help me out. But one of the greatest things that we ever did was, in those early years is what we really figured out our jobs, right? Figured out how to do what we did. And then, you decided, hey, I want to go to school. I'm going to try to learn a little bit about finance here so I can come back and help the business. Walk me through that little stage when you stepped out to go to school.
Well, as far as it goes, that was a interesting time. Getting into BYU, that was awesome. That was one of my life goals when I was a kid. I wanted to go to BYU. I wanted to get a degree in finance. I wanted to be a bigger part of what we were building as far as a bigger part of the team, as far as what we were building in the early days. From going to school, and that was just, going to school, getting married, the start of my family and such. Like that was an interesting time, and I think it was good because, like what we said, like we were laser focused on making sure we were getting better and growing and getting more structured. And that was a time in my life where I felt like I wasn't as focused on what we were doing. I was focused on the ultimate dream, but I wasn't as focused on what we were doing. And it was good to step back and to say, hey, I need to take care of some business. I need to get married, and I got to get that started. And two, it was a good experience because when I stepped back and I said, hey, I want to go to school. I want to get this degree in finance. It was good to see that, like, hey, what do I want to be doing in the next 5 years? Where do I want us to be going in the next 5 years? And what school taught me was what I don't want to be doing is be behind some desk. What I don't want to be doing is being some employee. What I don't want to be doing is doing something small time. I wanted to do something big. And I knew at that moment, like you said earlier, what our roles in sales, like I knew I was kind of special in sales. I knew I had some ability because we did not know. Like I remember my first call I ever went to by myself was we went to a drain call, and I show up, it's a tub upstairs, and we go, and I get out with the drain machine. I walk upstairs and I'm like, all right, how do we run this thing? And I'm backing it up. I'm going forward. I'm backing it up. I'm going forward. Okay, I got it figured out. And I'm looking at the tub, and you got the waste, you got the overflow, you got the waste. And I'm like, it's got to go down this part, doesn't it? And I'm like, I called you and you go, Ben, where do I run this thing from? And you're like, you got to go from the overflow. You got to take off that piece right there. And there's a screw. And once you go in down there, you're going to go about 1.5 feet. And then you're going to run into that P-trap. And you got to get past that P-trap, and you got to get cleared. And I remember just that, when I was just early starting out, like being able to call and have you to reference in that, like, that was huge because we did not have a training curriculum. We didn't have the structure of the training programs that we have now, which have light years, elevated our guys, not to have the pitfalls that we had. Mm-hmm. And then what do we need to say to this customer? And you go, well, this is what you say. And you go in here and do this is the pricing, and this is what we're going to do. And this is what you say. And then, that learning curve was huge, right? When we were first starting out, like, hey, knowing what we were doing. And, if you remember when we first started, we thought we were HVAC gurus. We thought that was we love HVAC, and we still do today, but we thought we were HVAC guys who did plumbing. And we found out really quick when I got off on our mission that, plumbing is where we wanted to be specialized in. That was something you'd looked into for years with the lining and the excavating, and how the company shift dynamic, that dynamic shift from Daniel doing that $1 million year in HVAC to us switching to plumbing. And that was huge for the company. And kind of, tell us a little about that.
Yeah, we touched on that a little bit in the last podcast, but like when we really figured out that we were not, when we figured out what we really wanted to be specialized in was that underground plumbing, the sewer repair. It's like anybody can hook up pipes, right? But nobody, it takes very special group of people to be able to excavate 10 to 12 to 14 feet deep and fix sewer lines down there and install liners, and this, today in time, we're installing 40, 50, 60,000 feet of liner every single year. And so it's like from where we went, where we were learning how to run a drain cable machine, and to now where we're installing, thousands and thousands of feet. It's crazy. But like, I remember in that time, it was right at the end of 2018. Daniel was like, man, Utah is good, but I think we can do better in Texas. And so he's like, I'm going to bounce out of here. And, he thought he was going to do some other stuff. And so, I ended up buying the company. I remember I came to you, I'm like, John, I need you to probably get out of school, man. I really need some help over here. And you were like, man, I'm working over here at this place and I'm really committed to this guy, and I committed to going all the way through June. And I remember sitting back, I remember thinking that night, and I'm like, gosh dang, I offered this kid freaking everything I had, to offer. And he turned me down because he had a commitment. But like in the later part, even up to today in time, that meant so much to me, and it still means something to me, that you had enough integrity and you had enough pride in yourself, right, to be able to, hey, no, I made a commitment. I'm going to stand up for my commitment. So I remember in June of 2019, I was, I became the salesman. I was selling, I was training all the guys. I was trying to run, the system that we had created. And, Matt was running all the excavations. Thank goodness he was there helping me with all the excavation and install stuff, and we had built a pretty good team, pretty good group of guys that we still have today that are, high producers for us. And you came back in June, and I was able to say, hey, here you go. You take over the reins of the sales, and I'm going to start working more on the business. And we grew, exponential. We grew, 4 times our size in that year. In 1 year, we grew, 4 times in size because you were able to come over, take care of the sales. We were hiring, we were training, right? I was able to do more training with the guys because you were handling the sales. And that growth in 2019 to 2020, really set us up for our, overall, expansion, in the purchase, our acquisition of Action. That's where, we get the name from. But like that time period set us up. Well, obviously we were able to get Alex back, we recruited Austin, we got Theron, but a whole crew of guys that we got in that time period really changed the whole trajectory of what we did. And it was because of all of the work that we put in those early years, figuring stuff out. Everybody was like starting to see like, man, what the heck are these guys doing? They're not just working day and night anymore. They're actually starting to grow and they're starting to get traction. And I remember, a lot of that traction that we got was because, we had you show up, and it was in the perfect timing. We had some really, really good guys that we just barely recruited that needed some training, and I needed to be able to shift my focus into something else. And that really, really helped us out. And I was, to this day, I don't know how it would have played out. I'm sure we would have figured something out, but I don't know how it would have played out if we wouldn't have had you come back in the time that you did, and it, I wanted you to come back a little earlier, but it worked out perfectly in that time period to have you come back when you did. But how did that time period in between, June of 2019 and our acquisition of Action in, February of 21, how did that time period like shift who you are as a manager and who you are right now as, one of the top guys in the business?
Well, as far as it goes, that time was, that was probably one of the biggest growth opportunities in my life was in June of 19 when I came back, and to even the 21 when we bought Action originally. That was huge because 2018 I got married. 2018 I got married. We worked that first year, and then when we came back, we didn't have a house. Like we started working with you. Saved up. That first year I did 160K that first year with you guys. We saved up. We bought a house, and then we kept saving. We bought another duplex, and then we bought a third duplex in I think it was March or April of 2020. We bought the third property. So in that first, year and a half, we in that first year and a half, we bought 3 properties, and that was crazy, because that was where I go, there's some serious potential in this plumbing stuff. There's some serious potential in what we can do here. And even in that year of, I want to say it was 2020, I did 250 that year. Like that was a crazy year for me and my family. And that was, just the potential that we have in the company. And then my growth in the overall management, I think that, I had done $1 million in sales before, but I'd never done 2, I'd never done 3, never done 4. And that those years where the, 2019, 2020, 21, like those years where we could just go full bore, and we did have the talent, we did have the Alexes to help out, we did have the Matt and the Therens, and you helping out, that team was allowed me to be able to sell more, because one, I knew it'd get done. I knew my customers would be taken care of. I knew that they would be, they'd be happy at the end of the experience. And 2, it was allowed us to be able to grow, because it's allowed us to be able to, increase our marketing, to get more guys, to get more calls, to get more customers. And that just was huge, because that just allowed us to now to basically, 2x, 3x, 5x, 10x our business. I remember sitting down with you when I first came back, and we were, we just said, hey, this is where we're at. And what's our goal? And I remember talking about, I remember being a $2.5 million company talking about, we want to get to 10. And then, that end of 21, where were we at that
14.
year? Yeah, 14 and 21. And I'm like, that kind of growth is crazy. Like the stuff that we did from a couple of guys, and, the maximum.
The passion.
Yeah, the passion to do it. I think Alex has got the most college of the 5 of us. I think Alex went to school for 2 years or whatever he went to college for. And, just the desire to be better and to make something great, and, make action great again. And I think that was one of those things where it was huge. That was a big time in the company, and there's a big time in our lives. Every single one of us, has been blessed by that time that we grew and, together, and grew the company. And I think it's really set us up for who we are.
Well, I remember, I don't know if Dad ever used to say it to you when we were young. I remember when we would drive down the road, and I remember he'd be like, man, see that bank over there? That bank right there is owned by a plumber. And we'd keep driving. I remember thinking that when I was young. I'm like, gosh, dang, a plumber owned that bank, geez Louise, these guys must be pretty special. And it's so crazy of what the trades can do to your life, what the trades can provide for your life, as long as you have the will to work, as long as you have the will to, learn and grow every day. I think that's the one thing that what made us really, really successful, is that we weren't too good to learn, every single job we went to, or every single day, and even today, we're still learning new stuff, every day, I get a call from one of the guys, and they'll say, oh, hey, I'm doing this, or I'm trying this thing. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's great. Let's try this, let's do that. And just our constant need to get better every day. I think it stemmed a lot from us not really knowing a lot about the industry, but our constant need and the strive to get better every day, I think really helped us. And I think one of the biggest things too, and I want you to elaborate more on this, is just our overall customer experience. When we talk about, I've been around a lot of service companies, right? And very, very few service companies, try to put so much effort into their customer and their overall customer experience. How has our, customer experience evolved over the years, and how has it, benefited us, with having connections at the very beginning to, the acquisition of Action, and, our morph into Action, and addressing their customers and taking care of them?
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things, as far as just starting with connections and even the acquisition of Action, is, and we talked about this earlier, is just the customers that are return customers that stay with us, that are loyal to us because they have had that good experience. And I think that's been critical to our growth. But I was talking about this earlier, and this is something that I'm fresh on my mind. And this is the kind of experience that I think helps to kind of showcase what is the reason that what our customer service is, what it needs to be, and what keeps our customers coming back. And I use this example all the time with my guys when I'm talking about them with sales. And I go, the other day I went to take my car in to get an oil change, and it's simple. It's not a very big job. And I go in there to an oil change, and the oil change is probably not the oil change that I get from, to the dealership is probably not as cheapest oil change I can get. But when they bring my car back to me, they'd washed it, and it would rain earlier that day, and it was a little dusty out, and, had some dust on it, but they brought it back, it was washed. And I said, my expectations were here, and they delivered here. And that customer experience right there will make me not only pay a little bit more to get my oil change done, but I'm saying next time I need it done, I'm coming back here because these are the guys who take care of me, and not just what my basic needs are. They made sure that I was happy overall, like, unconditionally on this. And as far as it goes, that customer experience where you go, hey, here's where their expectations are with dealing with other companies. And you see this all the time. We go to customers' houses who have 10 different companies, magnets on the fridge or the furnace or the water heater, and they've used one company for their HVAC tune-up and one for the drain clean and one for the electrical panel and one for the disposal or whatever. And then you go, why doesn't the customer use the same company over? Because they are expecting this and they get this, and sometimes they get less than that. And, they're expecting a level where it's, mediocre, and they get less than mediocre, or sometimes they get right above their level. When we come in, one of our goals in our customer experience is to say, hey, your level of what you want is right here, and I want to go above that. I want to make sure that, I'm bringing my booties, I'm putting them on. I'm going to make sure that I ask permission where I can park. Is it okay if I park in front of your house here? Is it okay if, I'm going to set up my expectations with my customers. I'm going to make sure that they know what they're getting. And then I'm going to clean up afterwards. I'm going to bring some cleaner in. I'm going to spray up my area. I'm going to make sure it smells good. I'll make sure it looks good. Make sure I put all the stuff back under the sink, or make sure that I put the panel back on. I test everything to make sure it's running properly before we go. Like that customer experience there where you deliver above what they want, one, makes them come back to you, and two, makes them use you for other projects. And that's where I think our success has been, where we get a customer that will use us for an AC and a furnace and a sewer and the electrical panel and the rewire, the repipe. Like there's things that happen in people's houses as they get to the age that they're getting in the valley here, that they will continue to keep using us if we can deliver above their expectations, if we can continue to make sure that they are happier than what they would be if we just give them the minimum. And I think that's one thing that we train, and one thing that we really work on and focus on with our customer experience.
Like every day we talk to the guys and we tell them, there's no such thing as being good. There's either you're trained or you're untrained. A lot of people in this industry, they walk around with their chest puffed out because they know how to bill, or they walk around because they know how to be the best plumber, everything, but our guys really excel, and we excel as a business because of how, good our customer experience is, right? And the training platform that we're building out right now for, the trades, it talks about all that. It talks about that from the second that we get that phone call, right? To how our office is talking to that customer, and how, when our technician gets there, and how the process he walks through to make sure that not only is the job getting taken care of, right? Which is a given. Like, I don't know very many plumbing companies that don't show up and fix the problem, right? But are we taking care of not just that problem, but making sure they're not going to have a catastrophe on their hands, right? And if they do have some other sort of issue throughout the year, are we establishing ourselves as the company that will always be there for them, right? On the good days, on the bad days, right? And that's why we have the different memberships and the different stuff that we have. But the question I have is, if our overall customer experience is better, right? If the customer's happier, are they more likely going to, like you said, are they more likely going to spend money with us in the other aspects and other trades, like the electrical, right? If we're there for plumbing, are they going to want to come back and spend money with us on their electrical panel or their sewer or their AC in their furnace, right? Of course they are.
100%.
Right? 100% they're going to come back and they're going to be like, yeah, absolutely. I already trust these guys, right? 99% of the reasons why somebody doesn't buy from you is because they don't trust you, right? So if we can establish a trust and that we care, right? And we're focused, all of our focus goes into that customer and taking care of their problem, right? The money aspect is just it's just a byproduct of that whole customer experience, right? And the more that we've put that into our business, the more that we've trained that into our guys, and the more that they understand that, we just keep breaking more and more and more and more records every single year. So like the one thing that I could suggest to any company out there, especially in the trades, but I think it's a universal truth, right? The more you take care of your customer in any business, right? The more you care about your customer and their needs and their wants, right? The more money you're going to make. So if we could recommend anything to anybody out there, it would be take care of your customer first, right?
Yeah.
Address the issue and the money will come, right?
Yeah, of course.
And that right there, when we took over Action, they had that was the craziest thing is when we were just running first with Connections, right? We always had a lack of calls, always had a lack of customer base, right? Because we were new business, and when we took over Action, we had tons of customers, and when we had all those customers, right, we really had to figure out how good we really were, right? Is okay, now we have an abundance, and that's where usually a lot of people work in, is they work in an abundance of people with too much work, right? And so they're not delivering. So when we started having too much work, we had to over deliver, and we had to really create a process that made every one of our customers feel like they were our only customer that day. And I think that's what's really helped us grow. But from your point of view, like what has been one of the biggest tools to help us grow over the last 3 years?
One of the biggest tools I think that has helped us to grow over the last 3 years, because we have, year after year after year, we've set new goals and we've hit new goals, and we've been really, really good about, just growing our company, not being stagnant, making sure that we're getting better. One of the things that I think that we've done really good is, and this is something that we are a staple of ours, it's one of our foundational parts of our process, and that's just the perfect service call. Being able to have a systematic approach where we go, guys, if you don't know what to do, if you're lost, if you're having a bad day, if you're having, something going on outside of work that's happening, like if you can just follow these steps and these processes of the perfect service call, you'll be all right. Like you're going to make sure the customer's happy. And if the customer's happy, they're going to have no problem choosing you as a professional to help them in their home. And the perfect service call has done fantastic for us as far as training our guys to be better and to help us to grow and to help us with all aspects of our company, from revenue to customer service. And then two, there's a big thing that we do on innovation. Like we're always looking for ways to get better. And I don't know of any time that me and you see each other or interact that we're not talking about how to make us better, how the guys are doing. We're talking about personnel. We're talking about policies and procedures. We're talking about, the day, what things are going good, what things are going bad. And, that's one of the things where we're always looking for those ways to innovate and, looking into how we can utilize different members of our team to get better, and how we can just implement other practices to make sure that we're doing better. And I think that's huge, because a lot of people go, well, we have our standards and we expect our guys just to do it, and they will, and a lot of times, but a lot of times if you're not trained, or if you're not in a habit of doing things right, if you get out of that, where a lot of service techs do, where they'll stop wearing their booties, or they'll stop having a good attitude, or they'll stop when they go to the door to present, they're staying in front of the front door to present instead of sitting down with the customer and showing them their options and making sure that the customer understands what we're talking about, understands the need, and then we're not just talking about price at that point. And the ability to make sure that the guys are doing that properly, I think that's helped us grow year in and year out, and we have had a lot of good retention with our guys, because with what we train and how we care about them, with them wanting to be here and them us being invested in them getting better. I think that's been a huge part of our growth. It's just right there.
And them having a clear line of, hey, I know I'm here right now, but I can get to this next step, right? Is understanding, hey, what's the next step? I think a lot of times, especially in the trades, in different companies, guys just get stagnant. They get caught doing the same thing every day, and then they start just getting lazy, and they stop, asking for reviews. They stop making sure that their customers' expectations are being met, fully. And I think that, for us, just like you said, that's been one of the biggest things that's helped us grow is understanding that and then implementing it, is constantly striving to be getting better every single day. We're talking about it constantly. And I think that's one of the been one of the better things too. So kind of walk me through like getting out of the van. So, I think that last year you sold your like 6 million. And once I came to you, for me, right, it was like, okay, I'm going to get John and I need to put him into more of a managerial role. You were already doing a lot of managerial stuff, but I'm saying like full-time manager, like answering the guys' questions, coming up with the training meetings, hiring, making sure the guys are getting trained, all of the different steps that go into that managerial position without running in a van selling full-time. Like walk me through that transition of like what you felt, like, oh crap, am I going to be able to do this? Because I remember you and I used to have this conversation all the time. It's like, gosh, like what's going to happen when we lose that revenue? When we lose the revenue that I sell every single day and every single year, what's going to happen? How are we going to make it? We were like, gosh, we were lost. So kind of walk me through that transition.
I've said this before, and I'll probably say this forever. I 100% believe that I am way better in the customer's house than I ever been or ever probably will be with in management. But as far as it goes, I'm also trying to be a team player. So whatever you guys need me to do. But as far as it goes, when we decide, hey, John, you're not going to run calls anymore, and we're going to have you kind of take a role where you're going to be in the office doing more manager phone calls, doing more trainings, doing more ride-alongs, being with the guys and stuff like that, not so much on just going out there and diagnosing and fixing problems. That was a huge dynamic shift in the company. One, because I was one of our top salesmen at the time, and that was huge. Where it says, hey. I think it was a process where we go, hey, we're getting to a point where we need to make sure that if we want to grow, we need to make sure that there's other guys that can do this, and there's other guys that we can put our energies into that can get to that point too. And I think that was huge, because I think instead of us thinking small, I think it's one of your big strengths is thinking, hey, big picture here. What are we looking for? We're not looking to be a $6 million company or a $10 million company that John does a majority of it. We're looking to be, $25 to $50 million company. We're looking for that huge growth, and we need to make other guys, we need to help other guys get to the level where you're at. And I think that was big. And for me at the time where it was, it was commission based, and going from that to more of a managerial spot, that was huge, because I was like, hey, we're going to do a test of faith here where we're going to see if we can do this. And, as far as it goes, with very few hitches and glitches, we were able to move me into that position. And I think it's been, really good, because one, it's helped me become better as a salesman. It's helped me to see, where I would see where from an outside review where guys are messing up, where they're having problems. And two, it's helped me out a lot with overall just kind of building me and kind of adding to my tool belt here, where as salesman, as I'm going into a call and I'm just focusing on that as the thing that I was working in a different position there, going to a manager position, I think it's really helped just adding to my tool belt on my skill set and making me better. And for what I can offer, as a manager, I think I've done my best to help out to get other guys that position, which I think has helped out with our growth. We're helping guys to get better at sales and being able to help them take care of our customers.
I tell a lot of people, I'm like, that year it kind of scared me, because I was like, I'm kind of uncertain about it. We didn't really know where we were going to end up, and had these crazy goals where we needed to hit, and I remember pulling you out, reducing, your 6 million in revenue. Not only did we make up that 6 million, but we increased another 4.5 or 5 million that year, So it was like, and I really understood then, the term, work on your business, don't work in your business. You know what I mean? And that what gave us the opportunity where we weren't just in there running every single call and making sure, and I took a $6 million salesman out of the van and I put him in everybody's van, right? You were doing all the manager phone calls. You were doing all the trainings with the guys. Like, hey, if they needed to ride along, you could go and ride along with them, right? And train them and really instruct them. And you weren't so just focused on, hey, I got a bill. Now is a major focus of everything, and you still get the phone call. They still call you up like, hey, what the hell's going on? It's like, hey, the major focus was we all need to build. We need to build the team up and get them all really, really good, before that, we'd never even had a $3 million salesman, and now we got handfuls of $3 million salesmen, you know what I mean? So it's like the growth that we saw from that transition was humongous. And then, you kept coming up with the great ideas of, hey, we're going to take this guy and we're going to put him in a more managerial spot, and it just boosts us even more. Every time that we're pulling guys and we're making them managers and we're building, the team, and the team builds us. That's one of the craziest things is you think all too often do, business owners and managers in the trades, they think, oh, I got one golden horse, I'm going to ride him until we can't ride anymore. It's like, no, like utilize his strengths and utilize what he's really good at to build a humongous team, because there's so many people out there. It's incredibly hard to get a $6 million guy, right? It's not as hard as we think it is to get 3 $2 million sales guys. Yeah. And be able to get them to produce, and get them building towards their ultimate dream, building their lives and letting this industry change their life like it changed ours. And so I think that's really been for us, in these last few years where we've been transitioning a lot into, more managerial roles, where it's like, it's helped us understand, it's helped us build even better process, now that we're moving to Arizona, it's helped us to really understand, hey, this is the process. We have a blueprint now, and now we're just going to implement it. And we're going to run, the exact same play. Obviously it's a different market. There's different things going on, but it's like, it's the exact same play. Yeah. Same sales process. You're dealing with the customers exactly the same way, right? We're taking care of their problems exactly the same way. And we're going to build a business down there that's freaking unstoppable because of all the principles that we've learned here, And so if there's anybody out there that's watching that doesn't understand, hey, or doesn't know if they can take that step to moving the right key guys into key places, you're a walking testimony of that, and exactly, hey, it was scary for us, but it made us who we are.
No, 100%. And I think that utilizing people to their full potential has been insane. When we, and I mean, to think about this, I mean, you're a multi-millionaire guy, and awesome entrepreneur, and you started multiple businesses and they've been very successful. And to think that, 7-8 years ago, you were our lead installer and your excavator. And, 6 years ago, William, who's a $300 million salesman multiple years in a row now, was a $12 an hour installer. And, in Alex Torres, who's been, moved into multiple different management positions, and he's made his different areas fantastic. He now is, head of the HVAC and the electrical departments as far as the sales, and he helps manage the install portions of it too. I mean, he was a underground backfill guy, and just the seeing the potential of where these guys are, and that's one of our testaments of just what it takes to be successful in this, is this utilizing the guys you have to be the fullest potential, trusting them. And I think that's hard. I think it's hard for business owners to trust their guys, because you do very good at digging, and you do very good at repipes, and you do very good at management, and you do very good at sales. And it's very hard for most guys to say, well, you know what, if I can make more of me or more time so I can do other things, and get someone that can do it 80-90% as well as me, and trusting that they'll do that, I think that's very hard. But as we've seen, as we go, hey, you know what, this guy might not do it, this is 100% of what I do it, but they do 80-90% of as good as I do it, and then it allows me 80-90% of my time back to go do more. And I think that's helped us to grow too, to be able to keep our head above.
And it's really just like, it's trusting in the system. We say all the time, like, hey, the system is bigger than all of us, right? And if we can get somebody to do it 80-90% as good as we can do it, right? And the system ensures, and the process ensures that they're going to go through the steps because we created that, right? That they're going to go through the steps to be successful, right? We can focus in different areas, and we can keep on multiplying. Like, you only have 24 hours in your day. I only got 24 hours in my day, right? Between sleeping, family time, eating, right? How much time do we actually have to be at work, freaking giving it everything we have? We have a very limited amount of time, but if we get those right key people that we've trained and we've brought up over the years, right? And we put them into those key times, now all of a sudden do we multiply our time by every single one of them, because every single one of them is running the same play that we're running. and we know what they're doing right, and they're going to have their pitfalls and they're going to have a thing, and allowing guys to go through that failure and to grow from it is incredible. All too often, especially in the trades, are we just afraid of failure? We won't ever put ourselves in a position to, fail a little bit. And I'm not talking about going bankrupt. No, don't put yourself in a position to go bankrupt, but like put yourself in a position to, hey, he needs to grow, and we've done all the stuff and we put it up right. He's going to fail in his own way, right? And building him up after he fails, is one of the most key things that we've really got good at. You've showed me a lot. I was not very good at managing, but like understanding, hey, he's going to fail. He's going to have problems, but what are we going to do after that, right? And seeing him for who he's going to be after the fact has really helped us. And that's gotten our guys to the point where they're like, man, there is a whole another level, right? These guys that were $12 employees that turned into installers, that went from installers to install managers, and they thought never in a million years, they would be making more than $50, $60, $70,000 a year, right? $100,000 was like, if you told one of these guys they'd make $100,000, in a year, they would have fallen over backwards. But now they're exceeding that, and they're pushing to breaking these generational curses that these bloodline curses that they have, right? And they're creating whole new lives for themselves, and it's all because of the process and managers like you and businesses like we have, that are allowing them to get to a point where they can fail, but we see them after that failure. And I think that's been one of the biggest key things that we've done really, really good at, is seeing guys for their potential, not seeing them for who they are at that point in time, but what they could be, and many people, if they'd have looked at me or they'd looked at you back in the day, when we were just kids, like, these guys don't have a clue what's going on, but they want to know. So like, we gave ourselves a chance and we kept on working, and we had to, an unrealistic approach at it. We knew we were going to make it. We knew we were going to be one of the best companies in the state.
Which is one of my questions for you. And I don't know if you've ever answered this one on the podcast or not, but one of my questions I guess I have for you is just, with what we've went through and with what you've done with, starting up Connections, to the acquisition of Action, to, the rescope and everything in between, what is it about you that makes you just not quit when other people would have quit, when other people would have given up? And we've seen, just in the time where I've done plumbing in the Valley here, we've seen awesome companies that have gone out of business. $10 million companies that have gone out of business and have closed their doors. And we've seen guys who hung up their company and sold it for way less than it was valued for. And just, ran companies to the ground. We've seen that in multiple times. What is it about you, or what is it about, your upbringing, or what is it about you that you just don't quit? How does it?
I've been asked that question before, but like, it all boils down to, when I think about this industry, when I think about anything that I've ever done, I've always wanted to be the best I could possibly be, and that's what's always driven me to really, make it is, I had you guys, I had, my wife and my kids, your guys' families. And it's just like, if I don't do my job and I don't perform every single day, right? And if I can't get better every single day, how am I going to lead them in a direction where their lives can be changed, right? Right? How am I going to, I was always pretty good. I could always make money. We've always been very good at just making money, but how are we going to change not only our lives, but our kids' life and our grandkids' life, right? And not only that, but how are we going to change the life of everybody in our industry? And that's always been a big thing for me, as my life is so blessed. Our lives, are so blessed by this industry. I just want to be able to get to a point where I can change thousands of people's lives with this industry, right? And the things that I now know about this industry, because I refuse to give up, right? We refuse to stop. We refuse to not give in to, the naysayers. A lot of people are like, oh, why are you working so hard? You don't need to work that hard. Or the people like, you're never going to make it because, you're a fat loser or whatever, So it's like, I was never going to give in to that. But what really drove me and made me want to do it is that, my life is completely changed by it. My kids' life is completely changed by it. And I want everybody to be able to experience that, because this is this is one of the greatest industries that, you know, I've ever heard of. I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs in a lot of different industries. And when we start talking about what we do and how we do it, there's like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. You know, like how do you get to deal with so many different people and change so many different lives of your customers, but not only that, but of your team as well. Right. And the people that you talk to and the people that you instruct, the people that you coach, you know, and so it's like, to me, that's what it's all about. You know, I want, when I'm done and I hang up, you know, I hang up my tool belt and I say, you know, I'm done plumbing, is I want this industry to understand, hey, you know, who Ben Jordan was, who Action Plumbing was, right? Who the Action Army was that helped with this industry and created a level, you know, just helped it level up. That's what I want. That's what I want for the industry. That's what I want for my family. I want for my friends, you know, and that's what's always driven me, is it just having an unrealistic approach to, you know, where we're going to be.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, that's the truth. I think with where we're going, what we're doing, I think that as far as I can tell, like every time that we've had, we've run into some rough goes where we've had, projects that were tough, and we've had guys, you know, we've had projects that were tough. We talk about that Father's Day. I don't even know what year that was, where we were digging that hole over there in Bountiful.
That was 19.
19. That was misery.
Oh no, baby, that was 17. That was Father's Day of 17. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I wasn't married then. Yeah. So that was a nightmare job. You got that job going on. Then you have 2020 that happened right before the acquisition of Action. You know, that was kind of a funny little deal there. And it's just one of those things where, as we've gone through and we've seen tough times and stuff, where we just buckle down. We're gonna get going. We're gonna keep working, getting better. We're gonna keep building. And I don't think we've seen one season where we haven't gotten bigger. We haven't brought on more guys. We haven't done more work. We haven't done more revenue in the entirety of we've been doing this. And we've been crazy blessed that way.
Well, you know, just there's no such thing as plateauing. Either you're going up or you're going down, you know, and I've always been a firm believer in that. And that's what's really made us successful and why we're constantly moving up, because, you know, we're not going to go the other direction. We're going to go as fast and as hard as we possibly can. And, you know, that's always been, you know, our goal. And that's how we've always looked at things, you know. And now we're not running as fast blindfolded, you know, we're making more strategic, you know, partnerships, more strategic, you know, moves that are helping us run and in a more straight line, you know, of where our goals are leading. And I think that's just what everybody needs to do, you know. And I really appreciate your time, Johnny, coming on today, and I appreciate you as, you know, as a person, as a manager in the business. If you guys have any questions, you know, anybody out there has any questions, you know, look us up on Instagram, you know, hit us up. You know, we're always free to answer any questions for anybody. But we're gonna hop off right here, and appreciate your time. You know, again, thanks for coming to the Action Army podcast.
Thank you.